Sonic Lab
TV.
Martyn Ware, Heaven 17, Bristol O2.
Yes,
How has it been here? How's the tour going?
it's going really well. We're a bit tired, as you'd expect. Well, 14 of us on a tour bus, but the tour's going amazingly well. We've got fantastic responses from everyone, and we're very happy with it.
So one of the things was, obviously this is a 30th anniversary of
Luxury Gap.
Luxury Gap. I mean, what was the thing that kind of started it all rolling, really?
Well, we did it was coming up to the 30th anniversary of Penthouse and Pavement a couple of years ago, and we thought, wouldn't it be great to do a 30th anniversary show, because we never performed it live in the first place, because we did videos back in the day, because MTV had just started. So that's what we did, and we were astonished at the response both here and in Europe, and we decided to do the same thing for the Luxury Gap.
So tell me, technologically, how have you approached it? Have you sort of gone back to the originals and sort of built it up, or have you started from scratch? I mean, how have you put it together?
Well, we started by looking at the original tracks. We didn't and don't have access to using the original multi-tracks for samples. So what we did was we painstakingly recreated, in a kind of Antiques Roadshow style way, each individual sound. Recreated the sounds using contemporary means, or sometimes things like Lindrum samples of the original samples, and placed them into a context that's a little bit more modern sounding, perhaps. And as you can see, using an electronic drum kit.
Yeah.
These are all as close to the authentic sounding samples as we could find, but we wanted the feel of them being played live, not just programmed.
Right. So where are you on the stage?
I'm over here. Come with me. This is my workhorse, the V-synth GT. I use it for all sorts. I'm particularly happy about the D-beam, which I use quite a lot in the performance. It looks quite dramatic, which is basically like a proximity sensor.
You get them to send up a sort of laser harp type vibe underneath.
No, you can change filters and you can assign different things to it. I can't play it at the moment; it's not switched on. But and it's very responsive. It's very human sounding, which is something I particularly like.
Well, it's good to see that you're using some hardware rather than a sort of box and a controller as well.
Well, we have to play some of the tracks from off Logic, which we play from the backing tracks, and so to counterbalance that, we want as much live stuff going on as possible. So it's very important to us that people don't think it's just some kind of karaoke show. All the vocals are live, all the drums are live, the guitar's live, the bass is live, the invisible bassist and guitarist, Asa and Julian, and the key. And we have now we have Berenice, which is an addition. Come into the light, Berenice. Berenice.
So, right.
Berenice is modelling the keyboards here, so Berenice is a recent addition to the band.
Right.
So we've now got more capability of playing more and more stuff live.
So what are you picking and choosing the sort of choicest lines for yourself, or the easiest ones to play?
Easiest ones to play and rubbish, but no, we do what we can live. And bear in mind that a lot of the thing about Luxury Gap, it was incredibly complex vocal album as well. So there's from a a vocal point of view, it's very complex.
Yeah, I can see there's a lot of vocal mics up. So.
Yeah, so, well, it's all three-part. I mean, Berenice has helped us on vocals in the past, but not on this tour. But it's just the actual amount of vocals is quite astonishing. So it takes an awful lot of concentration to do the gig properly.
So you're just doing this album, or are you kind of enhancing the set with other?
Oh, no. Well, back in the day, of course, albums were only 40 minutes long, weren't they?
Yeah, sure. So.
Because there's quality decline once you got beyond that. So, essentially, you can't do a 40-minute gig, nor would we want to. So, we play kind of, if you like, hits from a few more unusual things as well. Like B-sides and rarities, and a few surprises from the early Human League back catalogue.
I think Reproduction is one of the most undervalued electronic music albums. Sort of.
I look back on it now as something quite unique, actually.
I don't think that enough people know about it, actually.
I think not. It was just before polyphonic, affordable synths came out. So a lot of what we did on that was just monophonic. It was all System 100 and Korg 700S,
Sort of
essentially.
handmade drums and stuff.
Yeah, and handmade drums. No drum machines, no MIDI a lot of the time. So it was really almost like a chamber orchestra in synth terms, that album.
And you used to do that live a little bit as well, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. We did reproduction and travelogue. We toured around Britain and Europe with Iggy Pop and Susie and the Banshees. We did headline tours as well.
Yeah, but back in those days, people used to show their appreciation in different ways, which must have been a little bit tricky on the electronics. As
Yes.
Spat towards the stage.
I've got. Oh yeah, you know that story, right? So that was in Stoke at Victoria Hall. We had a bunch of skinheads at the Susie and the Banshees were headlining, and one of them was banging his head on the edge of the stage to make his nose bleed and spitting the blood at me. Lovely, but I was so busy performing, I didn't realise what was going on. I thought it was just somebody gobbing because you got that all the time. And I came off stage and I was covered in blood, and he was going, "You all right, Martyn?" I'm going, "It's a bit of gobbing. It's all right, you know." Horrible, yeah.
Oh.
I mean, in fact, Ian used to have his synth behind a perspex screen, and I remember Paul Morley, I think it was, saying, "Oh, it's a powerful example of the alienation of contemporary youth from the audience." So no, it's just to stop the gob hitting it because it's been bought on HP.
Yeah, it exposed to ruin the faders. So let's have a look at what's going on with the drum set.
Right, well, let's have a look at this then. I mean, I have to say it's a little bit impenetrable to me, but it's essentially a Yamaha. You can't really get up there, can you? You have to go around the back to do that. It's essentially,
Yamaha DTX
yeah,
Street,
yeah, and all of, as I mentioned before, all the sounds have been programmed basically on these pads and the hi-hat simulator and the kick drum, which is always the problem. That's the one that usually breaks down. This is really nice. This is like a kind of plan B if everything else goes wrong. You can actually play the entire set on these 6 pads as well, which is really nice, but he uses it for additional stuff as well.
So that samples, doesn't it? That one?
Yes.
So you're using kind of original Lindrum samples and creating.
Yeah, and we've, as I say, painstakingly reproduced a lot of the sounds.
What was it about the Lin that just kind of captured the moment? Because it was very much the sound of you at that time, wasn't it? It really kind of underpinned it.
Yeah, it was very, very funky sounding instrument because it was like hardware driven. And it wasn't, contemporary rhythm programming is generally done on a PC or a Mac, and it's just not as tight sounding. I actually did a test when I was in Vince Clarke's studio, and we did a test for a 4's kick drum on a timing scale on an oscilloscope on the top of the oscilloscope, and then on a hardware device. It was actually an MC4. Was it MC4? MC whatever. And then one played on Logic underneath, and the Logic one was drifting by 5, 10 milliseconds, 15 milliseconds randomly.
I guess that's the thing, isn't it? MIDI has inherent timing discrepancies anyway. So.
It does, yeah. But so that got me to thinking, we could never quite put our fingers on why, like Kraftwerk, for instance, sounded so goddamn funky, even though what they were doing was extremely straight, and it's because everything they were doing was CV and gate driven. Just
rigid.
Rigid.
Wow. So is the drummer at all nervous when he shows up for an audition with you guys?
No, Al's very, very good. He's very consistent, as you'll hear tonight, and he sounds like a human version of a drum machine, which is exactly what we want.
So what's going on over here? I can see.
Okay. Berenice is over here, so you can explain your keyboard rig.
So you taking sort of lion's share of the keyboard part, so?
It would appear so, yeah, when I can. And I've got, my Phantom's doing probably most of the work because it's got really good layering functions, and I like Roland a lot.
We're a Roland kind of band,
yeah,
aren't we?
it seems it's
good to see some Yamaha stuff there too as well. Yeah. So is there, how are you kind of dealing with the kind of Fairlight aspect of things, and the sampled stuff and that sort of thing? Is that all happening with the Phantom?
No, these are like simulations of of the kind of pads and
Yeah.
those kind of sounds that we would have
Strings.
used.
And some of the synths, if you're happy with it,
Yeah.
let it go by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be super accurate. We're not looking for complete authenticity. What we're looking for is to recreate the sense of how we might have done it back in the day, you know.
Yeah, and I
and-
mean, it's a big band, so there's a vibe is obviously
Yeah,
important.
and every evening it's different due to the balance being different and, you know, monitoring being different. And I mean, last night, for instance, we were on a stage that was half this size, and it was an entirely different gig, wasn't it?
Completely different sound. Yeah.
Different, much more kind of raucous.
Yeah.
We quite like that kind of club thing, to be honest, but this is much better tonight. The monitoring's more separate. You can hear what's going on.
So
Accurate.
you've also got some stuff in the rack here as well,
I
right?
do. I've got the sound cards here, and I've got my own DIs, which is really nice because the track are all separated.
So the backing track comes off the laptop.
Yeah.
Played on Logic, goes into the dedicated DIs. I don't know how. I wasn't here when this got built. So what does it do?
So this top section here is the backing tracks, and they're separated. So percussion, keys, the stereo left and right, and the backing tracks, and then the bottom tier are my two keyboards. I'm using the bottom keyboard there for piano sounds, like for Lady Ice, where it needs
Right, okay.
specific
And the sound
piano.
cards are in the top there.
Yeah.
Where's the laptop then? Does that just get brought down for the final?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, I always find this. Have you put SSD drives in the laptop? Because when you get the bass really going, the drive heads will
Right.
park. Something to watch out for.
I know what you mean. I've been worried about that, but it hasn't happened so
It
far.
hasn't happened
Yeah.
so far, so we're
been good.
okay. Actually, we have been having some problems with the Yamaha. I'm not sure whether the Yamaha's got a hard disk in it or a SSD, but we have had problems with like some double triggers on some of the pads and stuff. But it doesn't happen in rehearsals. It only happens in live gigs.
Just the sound
I think
pressure levels.
I think so. Yeah, I think it might be it just vibrates the pressure sensor. So.
Sure. Yeah.
So is it quite? Are you mostly playing parts, or are you triggering sounds? I mean, is it mostly kind of keyboardy, or is it a mix of both?
Yeah, it's mostly playing parts and just watching the backing track and making sure that's all happy.
And then you've got the Nord
It's
under
my
here.
Nord, yeah. I use this for the real piano sounds, for things like Penthouse and Pavement and Lady Ice and
Fantastic.
ones that need
Yeah.
proper piano.
But it's nice to have a proper keyboard player in the band who can, who can lend a little bit of. Oh, well, let's put it this way: it didn't matter so much with Penthouse and Pavement because the keyboard parts were pretty rudimentary on that. But as we move into Luxury Gap, there were people like Nick Pletus, who's a famous jazz player, who played a lot of the parts for us on that. I could never have played those parts, and so. If I tried to learn them for a year, I'd still not be able to do it. So it's good to have Berenice on board, who's actually a highly qualified keyboard player, may I
Thanks
say.
very much.
And so how complex is the front of house setup? Are you running a lot of plugins? Because I noticed you've got DigiDesign out there. Are you doing a lot of processing afterwards, or is it all happening?
No, it's all
just-
happening off stage.
Right.
I mean, you could basically take a stereo feed off this and it would be, he's just doing a few delays perhaps, and EQ, that's it.
Fantastic. So how many dates left in the tour?
Well, there's this one, there's Bournemouth,
It's 3
Oxford and London.
London, yeah.
Right. And then what's next?
We're doing, I think is it 8 or 9 dates in Germany?
Yes, I think it's 8 days.
8
I
dates
think.
in
Yeah.
Germany, all around
Yeah.
previously East Germany, West Germany. I think there's one in Antwerp as well, isn't
Oh,
there?
that's right, yeah.
Or Leuven. Yeah.
So what happens outside of the live thing? Is Heaven 17 project continuing? What's
Yeah, we are looking at writing some new material next year. I also, during the last year, have been doing a new British Electric Foundation album, which is finished now and it's going to come out in the new year, featuring, it's Music of Quality and Distinction Volume 3, so it's like famous singers singing electronic soul type, or in this case it's called dark. So the artistic premise is taking previously happy pop songs and making dark versions of them electronically. So we've got people like Kim Wilde on it, Andy Bell, Sandy Shaw, who did the first one 30 years ago, Green Gartside, and some new artists as well. Polly Scattergood, who's on mute. Yeah, it's a really good album actually. We've got that's coming out in February.
Are you still kind of reaching for the old classic synthesizer when you're doing that?
We're living in an age where we have to make albums for nothing essentially. And I'm not getting any money to make this album. I made it in my home studio for nothing.
Right.
So I do have some analog synths, and I'm very happy to use them. In fact, one of the tracks, which was co-arranged by a friend of mine called Brian Duffy from Birmingham, who's got a band called the Modified Toy Orchestra. He did the lead track on the album is an old Northern Soul classic called Every Time I See You I Go Wild, which is going to be sung by Kim Wilde. And it's like a kind of film noir version of the song using only System 100. So it's like about 100 tracks of System 100. It's bloody amazing.
Is that something that you still find yourself reaching for? Is there one or two that you just can't ever?
You can't
put into
replicate.
story?
You can't replicate. There's no virtual version of System 100,
No.
for instance. I wish there was, and I keep meeting various designers who say, "Oh, it should be all right. Yeah, it should be easy to do," but nobody's done it yet. I mean, I've got the Jupiter 8 Arturia, which is good, but it keeps crashing because it's so processor heavy. And it's not quite the same, but I mean, it would be fantastic to have a System 100 or a System 100M even in modular form virtually.
Does it not take away the physical relationship that is something that is, you know, I mean, the instinctive reaching for a knob? I mean, how do you wouldn't you miss that?
You could apportion that to like outboard controllers. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, if they came up with that, I'd be very happy. I mean, I use the Moog modular synth a lot. I think that's really good. Because I could never have afforded a Moog modular in those days. And to be able to have as many instances as you want, more or less, is just amazing.
So, have a great gig tonight.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of the tour.
Oh, thank
very
you
much.
so much. It's a pleasure.